We're going to start with session 4, which is the compliance phase. Remember I was telling you there's 8 phases to leasing? Well, this is the last phase. This is once everything has been done, the lease is registered, it's now you're operating. The compliance stage is the longest stage there is because it's for the length of whatever your agreement is for. So if you have an agreement for 50 years, then the compliance carries out for those 50 years. Now, compliance is just monitoring and making sure that the requirements and regulations or any restrictions and covenants within the agreement, within your laws and bylaws, are abided by. That's, in a nutshell, what compliance is all about. And to do that, you have to monitor. So let's just have a quick overview here of what happens like with administering instruments. There'll be a number of instruments that you could have. They could, whether they're registered in the Indian Land Registry or not, they're still in agreement with your First Nation and will still require monitoring and compliance. So you could have permits, leases, any kinds of they call them rights of way, but there's no such thing on a reserve. They're actually easements, your MOUs, memorandums of agreement. All these are instruments. And they're used to grant or record an interest in your lands, be it designated under the Indian Act or otherwise, or whatever. If you go into sectoral or comprehensive self-government, it would be whatever process you set up to identify lands you would have, okay? And this would be like your land code, okay? That would be your land law. And we've talked a lot about it, cautioned things, cautioned how in the development what to make sure for, don't do it like a lot of others have done it unless you understand you're in that regulatory gap. You'll create a vacuum. So we've had good discussions about that. So you create this land law. Now from your land law, you'll have your allotment law. So this will be like, okay, how do we allow land to be used? How do we allot it? Not allot it like the definition of the India Act. This is all your definition now, okay? So we'd have an allotment law, we'd have a development law, we'd probably have, definitely have a land use law, okay? So you'd develop all these other laws coming from one main one. Now, with each one of these laws, you now develop your regulations. Okay, so that's how the lawmaking process would work. Regulations are another form of law, but really the regulations are the procedures. How do you manage this law? Because the law will just lay out the do's and the don'ts of granting an allotment in this case. The regulations will actually say what you have to do. You may say it has to go to community vote. So it just, you'll have your voting process or time periods, notice periods, things like that. I'm not saying to do that. I do know one group that does do it that way. Development bylaw. This would say, lay out all your development cost charges, when they have to be done, all the time periods, forms and requirements. And then under here is what actually can land be used for. This whole law will be based on your land law, your constitution,